Okay. Hello. I am generally Koi, or you can call me May, either one. And I just released a video called I'm Waiting, and there's, I don't know, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at some of the project files that I used to make it. Maybe not the song per se, because I don't think my computer can handle running all that audio stuff. Maybe if I get a new computer, we can do that, but for now, I can just show you some of the stems and how they control the individual, how they control each part of the moving the video here. So, if I were just to hit play here, it's a little behind the scenes action, just a little bit of a a basics what's going on at like a physical sense here. You just have these long. You have a well. First, I started with the cubes, and then there's this platform just because it's in the shading here. If I go to this view, they're glowing. So I wanted it so that just in case, just and also to give me a reference on where the floor is and where things shouldn't pass through. That's what this little platform is. They kind of hide that. I put a giant backdrop on here because I thought it would be cool. I don't know if it's necessary per se, but it probably. I don't know. I just thought it looked. It did something with the light. Maybe even if it was like 5% or 1% or something. Having the backdrop there. Um, I don't know. It just seemed right. The camera here is tied to a cube that's just kind of hidden, so it can do a bunch of rotation stuff. I can kind of go into some of the movements. So like the camera's probably the most basic one. It's this one. And the way that everything moves is with geometry. The way everything moves is with geometry nodes here. So I have it's a bit complicated even for this. This is the simplest one. So you have your like input, your output, and then it just kind of transforms it here. So if we go to like if we like kind of zoom in on this, I'm not good with Blender. Hold on, we'll get it. We'll get it. We'll get it. There we are. So if you just kind of press play and look at the camera, it's like twitching. Very slightly twitching. And the way I did that is that I basically have a transform here, and then I just have a bunch of probably unnecessary math here. Um, and it's tied to two things. These are baked with the audio stems, and the audio stems are essentially in the individual parts of the main tracks. So the kick controls the camera. It's mostly a silent track, except for the occasional boom, dong, dong. The toms, which is a part of the drum, also controls the camera very slightly. I think it's like here, so yeah. So just very like basic parts of the song. Um, I wanted it to be controlled more. I wanted it to be very because you don't want to change the camera too much, or else it gets things you kind of get sick. So it's a very I have it here. It puts the raw number here from 0 to 1, 1 being like a really kind of just like a really jarring thump. So I kind of multiplied that by 2. And then with the toms, when the toms do play with the kick, so it's not like overloaded, I made it a very small variable. And also the color ramp here basically makes it so that there's less that should be eased, but oh well. Um I basically made it so that there's less it takes less to get to the maximum value of 3.96. I think that's how that works. I don't know. And then whatever the maximum value or whatever the value is here, it's divided even further then added to this one. It's going to another one which is maximized so that it doesn't go beyond 9.09. but it also uh, doesn't go below that. It has to have surpass that threshold, I think. I don't know how this thing works. I just know that it makes things smoother. That's further divided by 5, or yeah, divided by 2, multiplied by 0.5, inverted, um, inverted, and then further uh, divided down, I guess, because it was still too strong, converted into a vector, and then put it into the rotation. And then for that is split, because it doesn't just rotate; it also kind of goes in and out. Let me see. It kind of goes forward and to the right, I think. Oh, it goes down. So that's what this one does, is it moves it in space. And so you get this like little like dum dum dum, and like it rotates. With the kick, so because the kicks are kind of like the impact, so you wanted to really feel it. It's a very subtle thing. You don't really notice it, honestly, especially with the glow. But for this parts where it like breaks down, where it's like I think it's like right around here. Like there, you could tell it's moving a lot because that's kind of like the breakdown section. So it's like you can kind of feel it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I'm explaining it. And this basic principle of using kind of baking sounds into values and putting them through a bunch of math, it kind of transform an object, is kind of how it works for every single one of these rectangles here. So this one, the far left one, actually I started with wave 1, I added wave 0 afterwards. Wave 1 is composed of the kick, the try is the bass line. It's this part. So, and they're all, I could have just used like different parts of of a spectrogram to lay this out, but I'm a freak and I did this all manually, just based off of what I thought looked good. So this one is composed, well, it's actually just the raw kick data for this one. So like you get the full kick. You get the full kick, and then you get a multiple of the toms, which is it's kind of similar. Actually, I amplified the toms here, and then I added that to. Wow, this is actually. Oh, okay, and then I multiplied it, and then I divided it. It seems unnecessary, but it's the way my brain made sense of it. It has a maximum. It's lower than. I made it sure I wanted to make it have a dynamic range, so like this one is maxed out at 9.64. In terms of raw, like how much it takes to get to the maximum, and then I converted that so that when it hits the maximum of this, it automatically goes to 1.98, turns it into a vector, and then moves it up. And that's I don't know if that makes sense. That's the way my brain makes sense of it. This is also kind of a simple one. Now where like it starts to get to wave 2, you get the same principles, except I start to add more things. So this one is made of mostly the tri lower parts, a little bit of the sine wave, a little bit of the toms and the kick, but it's mostly the try here. So, oh, that's a bad part. Come on. See, or like, it's bad out of sync. It's probably because I'm recording at the same time. but it goes up and down. Blah, 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 blah. Wave 3 is kind of a little more of the same. This is kind of where I realized that the square wave was a bit tricky to deal with because it was not always consistent, so I kind of had to max it out. Um, the math gets a little complicated here. One of these had like a stupid level of this one's kind of complicated. I think it was wave 5. Wave 5 gets kind of because you have a little bit of the try, a little bit of the snare. That's an extra value. Do I have two signs here? No, I don't. Okay. So they're all kind of controlled by different parts based off of what I think should have been there in the wave analyzer. Um, Wave 6 gets kind of messy. You see, whenever I use the sine and the square wave, I kind of had to finagle it because they weren't cooperating very well. 7 is kind of a lot of, ooh, that one's kind of complicated. 8 is probably the most complicated one because I wanted it to be kind of, I didn't want it to really, I wanted it to kind of, it's just blah, blah, blah. It's essentially wave 7 but with that's extra stuff. I don't know why that's there. I wanted it to be kind of low, so I kind of multiplied everything by 0.75, and then I wanted it to be slightly different, so I kind of amplified. I added something in there. Anyway, that's probably all that's here to talk about. Without, it's kind of just simple math that I just kind of went by feel. We can talk about the shading. So, for the shading, I just kind of went with red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. I think that's indigo, violet. I don't know what the difference is. Colors. This one's kind of like a magenta, I think, and this is kind of, I don't know. I just kind of went with rainbow colors because I'm not good with colors. It's a good default. Looks kind of good. Somewhere in here, I made it. It's not a true decimal black color because I just thought it was kind of messing with the way the light reflected, so I made it slightly brighter. That's just kind of a niche little thing. Where is 30 FPS? Because 60 is too much movement. I realized. Bloom is on, and I kind of modified it to be like a weird, because 5.5 was too much, 5 was too little, 5.02 is just the sweet spot. I'm weird like that. Each individual one has, I think even the backdrop has a, yeah, they all have their own material. They're all color coded with like different stuff. That's kind of the boring part, honestly. Compositing. That's where things kind of get interesting. So I added an anti-aliasing first. I added a slight lens distortion. I just like the projector effect. I don't know what it does, but I know it does something that I like. I added a little bit of glare, and then I put it in here. Honestly, I don't really know what I'm doing. The first thing I did was this is actually based off of, don't save. This is based off of a tutorial that used something like this. And that's kind of where all this comes from. But I didn't like the way this looked because I thought it was just too flashy. The sound's not working. I don't know why. Oh, it's probably because the file's doesn't exist anymore. And I just thought it was too jarring having everything tied to one thing, and I wanted to make it look different. So I just kind of used some of the stuff I learned in this tutorial. I don't remember. I'm really bad with names. I'll just like show it on the screen, like the thumbnail for the video that I saw, and then like link it below. and I just kind of took what that taught me, and then I used it in my own project of just that one. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if this was even comprehensible at all or even interesting, but yeah, that was me talking about this. I can answer any questions probably in a more comprehensible and specific manner in the comments. But yeah, I think that's it for this one. I don't know what I'm doing.